Conference, let me say after these years away, it's good to be back home. When the Prime Minister asked me to return to the Cabinet last October, I felt a lot of things. Shock. I think I was as shocked as some as you. Surprise. My network of informants had let me down on this one. And also apprehension. Returning to the goldfish bowl of British politics and all my fans in the media. It made me pause. I mean, I had, after all, been in this movie before, and its sequel, and neither time did I like the ending. But Conference, I didn't hesitate for too long. The pull was just too great. The pull of coming back to serve my country when it was in the midst of a global whirlwind that had hit us then. The pull of coming back to serve this Prime Minister, our leader, Gordon Brown, who was gripping this financial crisis, leading the fight back against it. And I say this, Conference, because I saw it round the world, gripping it when so many others seemed to be caught in the headlights of this world crisis. But there was something else. It was the pull of coming back to serve our party. Now, I didn't choose this party. I was born into it. It's in my blood and it's in my bones. And I love working for this party and those who work so hard for it, even if at times perhaps not everyone in it has loved me. Now, I understand that I made enemies sometimes needlessly, and I was sometimes too careless with the feelings and the views of others. But please, Conference, accept this. It was for one reason only. I was in a hurry to return this party to where it should be, in government to help the hard-working people of our country. And I know that Tony said that our project would only be complete when the Labour Party learned to love Peter Mandelson. Well, I think perhaps he set the bar a little too high, though I am trying my best. But the fact is, our project, Conference, is far from complete. The Labour government has never been more needed than now. Needed to fight back against the recession, needed to build and secure our future economic strength, and needed to ensure that we pay down debt in a way that is fair and which protects jobs and homes and our frontline public services. And of course, Conference, of course we must face facts. Electorally, we are in the fight of our lives. And yes, we do start that fight as underdogs. But Conference, let me say this. If I can come back, we can come back. Now, I came into politics to help remake the Labour Party as a party of government. My relationship with Gordon was forged when people said that we'd never form a government again. And it made us not just modernisers, but fighters, and not just quitters. And Conference, that modernising spirit still burns as brightly within us now as it did then in those years when we began this journey. Gordon, am proud to serve you in your government as you lead the fight back against this global recession, and you will have my full undivided attention and my full undivided loyalty until we win that next election and beyond. In conference, the policies conceived and executed over the last year have now begun to pull our economy back onto the long road of recovery. When it mattered, Gordon Brown and Alistair Darling have made and are making all the right calls. Of course, they could have made different choices. They could have taken David Cameron and George Osborne's advice to let the recession take its course. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if we'd done that? I hope these two find the humility to acknowledge that at every point Tory policy would not just have put the recovery at risk, but made this recession deeper, longer, and far, far worse. And I tell you, as we get closer to the election, I want to see those two, and I want to see Tory candidates across the country explaining why they wouldn't provide the money to help small businesses and families in this recession when they needed it most. No extra money to boost family incomes, no money for the tax deferment for business, and no VAT cut. No additional money to help those who have tragically lost their jobs. No funding for the car scrappage scheme. They got it plain wrong at every step along the way. And I say to every Labour member and campaigner across the country, do not let them off the hook, because I certainly will not. Conference, the foundation of all we want to achieve is a strong economy. And so what does that mean? It means continuing to limit this recession's damage to our economy, because when private demand plummets, governments must step in. It means once we are through the recession, and only when this is clearly the case, we will tackle the deficit without eating into the fabric of people's lives. And it means too, investing in future growth. Now, on all three counts, the Tories are on the wrong side of the argument. I tell you, withdrawing our help for the economy now, as Mr. Osborne demands, would choke off recovery before it has properly begun. Not for the first time, Boy George is sailing close to the wind. Now, there are encouraging signs that the economy is picking up, but recovery remains fragile and it remains uncertain, as Alistair said, especially in manufacturing, and one of its cornerstones, the car industry. Our car scrappage scheme has been so successful. The money is running out, and the industry has asked that the scheme be topped up. Conference, I'm sorry, we cannot do everything as a government. But that does not mean doing nothing. So today I am extending our popular car scrappage scheme. Extending it with extra money for an additional 100,000 cars and vans. And in support of our car industry too, this government will stand by the Vauxhall workers in Ellesmere Port and Luton, where the workforce themselves have been the main driver of change. And conference, the same goes for Jaguar Land Rover too. The conference, all of this only makes sense. It only makes sense if we continue to invest in our country's future growth. It's growth that will see off recession. It's growth that is key to paying down debt. More than 10 years ago, I spoke to this conference as Trade and Industry Secretary about how we needed to renew the British economy and build it around knowledge and science and innovation and enterprise. But this isn't 1998. This is a different world. China, India are undergoing the greatest revolution in the economic history of the world. The greatest financial crisis of modern times also requires us to rethink our growth model for our country. Now, of course, we should be proud of our record. Production is up by a third. More businesses, more research, more people than ever at university, more people learning new skills, although still not, in my view, yet enough technicians being recruited for our new industries at the heart of our growth strategy. Not yet. Now, some people think that Britain is a post-industrial country that doesn't make anything anymore. Well, someone needs to tell them that we are still the world's sixth biggest manufacturer, and we will remain a modern manufacturing nation as long as I and the government remain in our jobs. But we do need to accept that during this time we've not got everything right during the last 10 years. The truth is growth was so strong, we started to take it for granted. We nurtured finance, not wrongly, but we should have done more to nurture our other strengths as well. Now, the potential is there in Britain. We know that. In the services sector, the creative sector, the biosciences sector, and in high-tech advanced manufacturing. But to release this potential, we need a clear plan for growth, and this is my mission. First, with Labour in office, there will be no cap on talent in this country. People with university degrees and skills earn more, climb higher, and create more value. The Tories think that more means worse. We do not agree. Britain gains when every person who is capable can get the chance to go to university, get an apprenticeship, or get a new skill. And to make this possible in a tough public spending environment, we all need to contribute. Government, individuals, and employers. And second, I want to see an innovation nation. Science is one of the jewels in the crown of Labour's years in office. And we want closer links between businesses and universities so that good ideas don't stop at the research lab or the library door. We're one of the world's biggest investors in research and development, but we still do the R better than the D, and that's got to change. And third, we're going to do more to put finance at the service of industry by building up new public channels to deliver private funds to innovative and fast-growing companies in our country. What we need, conference, is less financial engineering and a lot more real engineering. And fourth, no more saying the market on its own will always sort it out like some kind of dogma. Instead, in my department and my team, over the last 8 months, we've said this is viable and it's important, but the market alone won't get it off the ground, and we can help make it happen. We've committed £750 million to new manufacturing innovation in Britain, investing in low-carbon cars and aircraft, new digital platforms, plastic electronics, life sciences, industrial biotechnology, wind turbine development and wave power, and I could go on and on. This isn't conference us picking winners, as happened too often in the 1970s, when more often the losers were picking us. This is us giving public support to new technologies without which they may never get off the drawing board without our help. That's what we're doing, and that's what we've got to continue doing. And finally, we're committed to making sure that the benefits of investment in growth are felt in every part of our country. The Tories say, abolish the regional development agencies. We say to them, go for growth. Let's see what you can do, because we're going to be right behind you in what you do for your regions. And that's what we should be doing. Conference, this is the industrial activism we need more of in this country, and I and my team are determined to provide it. Now, where are the Tories in all this? When did you last hear David Cameron or George Osborne last say anything about Britain's industrial future? Can you remember? I can't. I mean, I could ask Ken Clarke. But his mobile phone and BlackBerry always seem to be turned off. Or given, actually, that he keeps privately agreeing with me on most things, perhaps David Cameron's had it cut off. The truth is these Tories have absolutely nothing to say about an active government economic role, because their dogma prevents them. They just don't get it. This failure, I believe, conference speaks to a wider truth about our opponents. David Cameron has been pursuing a strategy not of real change, but of concealment. Yes, they've made changes to their presentation. The image-making department, it's done its job, it's done it well. Who am I to criticise? But you know, the Tories seem not to realise that change has to be more than a slogan. And the first rule of any marketing strategy is that it's got to reflect the product it's selling. And what is becoming more evident by the day is that in their case, it doesn't. The two faces of the Conservative Party are increasingly on show. The one, they want to present to the public of a revamped Tory party. And the other, that betrays the reality of traditional right-wing conservatism. Now, you know the Tories seek to give the impression that somehow they have learnt the lessons from New Labour and our parties march back to the centre ground. Well, the Tories may have skimmed the headline summary of the New Labour manual, but they never bothered to read the book. If they had, they would know what real change involves. They would know, conference, what a painful process it is. We in this hall know what it took to make the changes that we undertook. Show me what has really changed. What's really changed in the Conservative Party? The truth is that the old Tory right that was rejected in 1997 are quietly feeling at home again in David Cameron's Tory party. At home with his tax plans, At home with the barely disguised glee that a new generation of Conservatives is showing at the prospect of deep and savage cuts to public services, and at home with a position on Europe that sees them aligned with extremists and sidelined in Britain's biggest market. Now, that's not change. That's not change. It's the same old Tory party with the same old policies. So let's take on, conference, the arguments about change. This will be a change election. And either we offer it, or the British public will turn to others who say that they do. Of course we must celebrate our record and be proud of defending it. We did fix the roof whilst the sun was shining. We can look at the way we turned round our public services, our record on tackling poverty at home and abroad, our role as a force for progressive social change, the minimum wage and the new rights for working mothers and fathers, and we can feel proud of those and every other achievement that we have to our name. But conference, let us remember too that you win elections on the future and not the past. Don't make the mistake of sitting back and expecting people to be grateful and just queue up and come to the polls to vote for us again. We must not translate the pride that we feel in what we have achieved into a defence of the status quo. Just as we fight against a Conservative Party that is still steeped in the old Tory attitudes of the 1980s, we must not allow ourselves to fall into old Labour thinking. The British people have their eyes on the future, and so must we. We are the true progressives. We are the true progressives, and we must be restless for change, impatient to do more for the hard-working people that we serve, unafraid to embrace new reform, new policies and new thinking where it is needed. That's what we've got to be up for, conference. And we need to think like insurgents, not incumbents. To challenge, to argue for change, to campaign, to be the real change makers in British politics. This is our task. We need to fight back. Of course we do. But to do so successfully, it is up to us to explain with confidence and with clarity and conviction what the choice is between us and the Conservatives. That's what we've got to do. The choice between a Conservative Party whose judgments on the credit crunch were wrong, or a party providing leadership in the toughest of times. A choice between a party that lurches to the right the second it sees a chance of doing so, or our party that is resolutely anchored in the progressive centre of British politics. A choice between a party that does not understand the new world we live in, or even what has happened in the last year, or a Labour Party that knows the world has changed and that we have to change with it. That's the choice, conference, and I tell you too, experience and change with Gordon's leadership or the shallowness of David Cameron. That's the choice for the British people at the next general election. In one way or another, I have been part, in our party, of the last 5 election campaigns that we've fought. And let me tell you a secret. Deep down in my guts, I always knew who was going to win, even, sadly, in 1992. And this time, it's not cut and dried. This election, conference, is up for grabs. That's what we're fighting for. So So, conference, yes, we may be the underdogs. Yes, we may be. But if we show the British people that we have not lost the fighting spirit and appetite for change that has defined this party throughout its history, then we can and will win. And I tell you, conference, we will win for our party. We will win for our party, and we will win for our country, and we will win for the British people. That's what we're going to do.